So we're here today at Westwood Lakes on Skylark Pool, absolutely rammed with fish, and I want to just talk through my approach. Couldn't be simpler really. So there's so many fish in here, simplicity is the best way to go. So there's 4 key areas that I like to target: down the edge, a short line, a shallow line and a cross line. So let's have a quick rundown of the rigs I'm going to use and the areas of the peg that we're going to target. So firstly, we have got a edge rig. This is a 0.4 pig in 20 inches of water. There's a bit of a cliff face down the edge there. So I've got a nice short lash and I'm trying to hang it on the bank so I'm not sloping up and down that slope. Really durable gear because the fish are big in here and there's loads of them. We've got yellow slick in a short kit, 018 main line, 0.4 pig and 6 number 8s down the line with a 016 hook length. So nice and durable for catching plenty of fish nice and quick. Moving on, we are looking at my across rig now. So similar depth of water, that's probably 2 foot water across there. But because we're fishing 14.5 metres, I've just scaled down a little bit on elastic and stuff like that. So if we do catch some smaller F1s and some skimmers and stuff, we're not going to bump them. So that is the orange slick through a short kit. I've got a 0.4 XL carbon there, so a bit more stable in that crosswind, with a couple of number 8 back shots, say, because it does blow quite a bit here, and then that's 6 number 8s on my hook length knot, 018 main line again and a 016 hook length again on that, so nice and durable. So a bit of a throwaway line is more short line. If the lake's a little bit moody and you need to catch some barbel and some skimmers and stuff, this can be great for dropping in mid-match and catching, say, 50 pounder barbel, skimmers, bits and bobs. So a bit more of a flirty rig. I've got orange slick for a short kit again, 018 main line, and this is a 0.25 carbon slim in about 5 foot of water with 6 number 10s strung throughout the rig, so I can catch a fish on the drop, and then when it's on the bottom we can fish properly on the bottom as well. Nice durable 014 hook length with a 16 hook. So the final area of the peg that we like to target is for fishing shallow, so 3/4 the way across, where there's a few wary fish, you can normally catch them shallow. So set up with this is orange slick again, so it's a little bit lighter on the strike and when we're shipping back a long way. I've got a 0.1 F1 shallow, 2 number 10s, same main line, same hook length. I've got 018 main line and 016 hook length with an 18 eyed hook there with a little pellet band on. So bait choices. A lot of people like fishing micro pellets and soft pellets here. I think there's too many fish to be feeding micros and stuff. You can end up with loads in your peg. So I'll keep it really simple. I've got some hard 4mm pellets, so they're going to be a bit more stable in the edge and when you're fishing across, and hopefully not as inviting, so you're not getting too many fish in your peg. Then we've got some maggots for chucking on a short line to catch some barbel and some skimmers and stuff. And if it's really difficult, I can get away with putting a little bit of ground bait in a peg, but on a good day, middle of summer, just some hard 4mm, some maggots, and then just some hard 6mm to go in the band. Couldn't be simpler, bait wise. So when plumbing up down the edge here on Skylark Pool, the carp have been in and undercut all the banking, and the banking has collapsed, so trying to find a flat spot is really difficult. So just taking your time and working your way along the edges, trying to get away with as short a lash as possible and hanging onto the banking, we should be able to minimise our foul hookers and get some clean bites. So I've already plumbed this area up, but we'll just look through it again. So you might be able to pick that up, the banking is all over the place. So what I'm looking for is just a little flat spot that we can fish on in the right depth of water. So there's a bit there that isn't massive, but it is fishable. And what I can do to aid presentation, if you like, and aid the area that I'm fishing in, is actually lean it up against the banking there as well. So I found a flattish spot, and then when I'm fishing with that short length of line a bit above pole float and tip, they should be able to hook themselves against the weight of the pole as well. So it's going to minimise our foul hookers as well. So starting the match, starting the session, where I'd like to start the session, I say there's a lot of fish here on Skylark Lake and they respond to coming straight down the edge. So I'm going to fish hard pellets down the edge to start. I'd stay on this as long as possible, up to 3 hours normally before it starts to fade away. Some of the lads like to fish here down the edge for 5 hours. I'll catch down there early and then can't catch on it later on, so I've moved to somewhere else in the peg. But feeding the peg, probably got 20 4mm pellets, hard pellets. I just like to chuck those into my peg. That'll draw some fish into my peg, and I'm not going to put it directly over my float. I'm not going to feed when my float's in the water, because we're going to end up foul hooking one. So it's a case of feeding before we go into the peg, and you might be able to pick that up. There's one swirling there straight away. So we'll ship out to that top kit and one down the edge. I'm not going to feed anything whilst my rig is in the water, because there's no end of fish in there. And the last thing we want to do is foul up one of them great big uns. So I've laid that down on that cliff face, and then resting my pole against the bank in there, so I know I'm on the right part of the cliff, if you like, so I'm not going to be too far up the shelf or too far down the shelf. And it's just a case of being patient. So there's one in the peg there now. We're not going to strike at a line bite and foul hook him, so we just push the rig up the shelf. So we'll just lay that rig back in. So there's a real visible tip on that float there, so it should minimise our foul hookers. So there's a nice clean bite, and as the fish exits the peg, I just want to refeed with, say, 10 to 20 hard formal pellets. And then there's some food there waiting for the next carp to come into our peg. So gear wise, we've got yellow slick through a short kit, so we can land these big fish quickly. So it's a nice carp. Nice common carp. So I ain't going to hold him up because he's a lovely fish, but don't take many of those to build up a weight nice and quick. So with that edge line, I'd look to catch on it as long as possible. Sometimes it will last just a short window of, say, half an hour. Sometimes you can end up catching on it all match. But for purposes of today, I'm going to move on to our next line. So on my short line, we're fishing it on a short kit and a short 3. Normally I'd like to fish it down the middle, but here at Westwood on Skylark Lake, the bottom is much firmer on that top kit line, and it's the deepest part of the lake, believe it or not. It's probably 5 foot there. As you get further out, it gets silty and it gets shallower as well. So those fish will feed better on that nice hard bottom in that deep water. So feeding this line, I feed it from the start and constant with maggots. It's just one of those lines that you can drop on and rest the other areas you peg, so like your edge line or your cross line. It can be a real good weight just to nick a few fish whilst you're resting your peg. So with that, we're going to get 20 or so maggots, chuck them out, then we're going to flick our rig past, and we're going to hold our rig, so hopefully the maggots with loose fed and our hook bait are going through at the same time. And we'll just wait for our float to straighten up. If we haven't caught one on the way down, that rig's just straightening up now. So just before we hit bottom there, perfect example of fishing through the water with maggots. You normally catch those little bit bigger fish as well off the bottom. The little bit wiser ones seem to sit up out the way, and once the feeds hit the bottom, they let the little peckers move in, if you like. So just taking our time. I don't think it's a big fish. Saying that, it's trying to run me around all over the place. So they're adamant to do us around the platform legs. It's just a case of making sure he doesn't make me look like a fool and do me around the platform leg. He's even got me standing up. There we go, he's well away from that. So there we go. Not the biggest barbel in the lake, but a nice quick fish nonetheless. And a lovely fish to catch as well. So we'll unhook him, snaffle that double maggot. There we go. Stick him in the keep net, and then it's just a case of repeating the process Once I've hooked a fish as well, I think it's really important to refeed your peg, just so you've got one waiting there to go in, next put in. So just fishing double live maggots, stick that little short 3 in the end of there. Gonna feed a few maggots again, flick our rig in, and then we'll try and catch one on the drop. If it does actually have a chance to get to the bottom, well then that one's hook it even shallower. Barbel that are supposed to be bottom feeding fish, and we're catching them on the drop with maggots. But as I say, you can also catch the carp and the F1s, and there's some decent skimmers here in here as well that you can catch on that line. So it can be a real mixed bag line if you like. Let's see what we've got this time. Oh, he's trying to do me around the leg again. Oh, a little barbel, little Brucey that is fighting fit. There we go. But yeah, just a super way of catching fish through the water. Sticking back. So that really is proof in the pudding. Our edge line went a little bit funny. We've dropped on that short line and caught 5 pound of barbel in probably 2 minutes of fishing. So carry on that until it would fizzle out. And then it's a case of either going across shallow or fishing across to the mud banking. We'll go and have a look at fishing on that mud line. So when it comes to the far bank line, I like to feed this with hard formal pellets, again to try and not get too many fish in our peg and not foul up too many. So we've got a 6mm in the band, we've got a medium pot, flexi pot, and we're just going to fill that with hard pellets. No preparation needed because the fish are going to be waiting across there anyway for us. Longish lash just because it's always windy here at Westwood, with a couple of back shot on, and we'll just ship him out over to the rat hole and just rattle in a few pellets, make a little bit of noise. So once we've rattled those few pellets in, it's just a case of placing the rig over the top, just pushing it into that banking. So it is quite windy there, and then I'll just pull my pole back slightly so when we strike we ain't going to end up in the bushes for the squirrels. So just clinging onto that pole in the really high winds. Just wait for a positive bite. Just missed one there. Try and reset the rig. So it probably doesn't look as blowy as it actually is. So just clinging onto that pole. That rig isn't moving at all, it's nice and stable with those 6 number 8s down the line there. Nice positive bite, gentle strike, and we'll just ship him back. So pole nice and low, just concentrate, make sure we're on both rollers, that would help. And then that soft elastic's just doing its work so we can ship it back to a top kit nice and smoothly. And then we'll just strip him. Could be an F1, could be a carp. I don't think it's a big fish, but I'll say they're all weight builders. Oh, bigger than I first thought, to be fair. Nice common. Oh, shocking bit of netting. Let's try again. Nice chunky little common carp. Cleanly hooked, and we'll slip him into the net. So the final area of the peg or style of fishing that works really well here on Skylark is shallow fishing on that 3/4 line. When they're being moody, when you can't catch them down the edge or across, you can end up patrolling on that shadow line 3/4 the way across. And I've caught really well in the past fishing shallow there. So This isn't a rig I'd pick up out of choice, if you like. It'd be one if I need to fish in that area. I wouldn't need to prep it, I wouldn't start feeding it until I actually go on it. You can catch a few early ones normally, just slapping your pellet, and then once you've caught a few daft ones, just ping in 2 or 3 hard 4mm pellets. So I've got a slightly longer lash than I'd normally fish there, just to help me whip round and make plenty of noise, and with that wind as well, just hold it a little bit still. So we'll ship out onto that shadow line, and we're just going to flick the rig over, try and keep a tight a line as possible. I say we are fishing that bit longer lash to make some noise, and also to try and keep the rig still in the wind. So we'll just try our luck and try and catch a few daft ones without feeding, and then normally once you've caught a few early ones, we'll start pinging a few pellets. But they do come to that noise to start with, and then once you've caught them few daft ones, it's just a case of picking up that catapult and just pinging 2 or 3 pellets every now and again once you're hooked to fish to rebuild your peg. So there we go, a nice angry carp. So it's just a case of putting a few pellets in the catapult whilst the fish is on, just ping them out into the peg and concentrate on playing the fish. Once we've shipped him back to a top kit, so that nice soft slick, we can just trap it in between our legs, pick our catapult back up, just 3 pellets again, nothing major, and just flicking those out onto our shallow line, ready to catch another one. So another carp, I think, the way it's playing, just nodding his head. So every single fish tries to do you around the platform. So just taking your time, the big fish, no need to rush them. Is he going to make me stand up? No, he's behaving. Splashy, splashy. There we go, lovely mirror carp on that shallow line. Probably 5 or 6 pound. Oh, he's angry as well. Doesn't want me to unhook him. So just to summarise, there's another stunning carp that we've caught today at Westwood Lakes. We'll slip him back. Safely into the net. So just to summarise, if you're here to fish a match, or if you're just coming for a pleasure session, we started in the edge, caught some there until it fizzled out. You can drop on your short line, catch a mixed species of fish, and then you've either got your across line or your shallow line to catch, and then hopefully drop on your edge line and catch some more later on throughout the session.